Welcome to the Voices of Impact and Change, where we amplify the stories behind the stories, the journeys, the breakthroughs, and the voices that are transforming lives. I'm your host, Dr. Mac, Chief Visionary Officer of Mac Media and Publishing. Today, we are excited to have the I Am Her series continue. We have a special guest joining us today that we are so excited to highlight, and I'm so honored to have her join me, and it is Miss Sindile Mazibuko, who is the author of the chapter Guided by the Wisdom of Our Mothers, Ubuntu Legacy. And something that's really dear to me. I can't wait for her to really share more about that, because I learned so much from her, and I'm looking forward to her sharing that blessing and blessing someone else with the knowledge and her experience. It's just everything. Her energy is just really great and always just really affectionate to others. And so I'm looking forward to that spilling out and her sharing about that. So I want to welcome Sindile to the Voices of Impact. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Greetings to our listeners and viewers. And thank you, Dr. Meg, for hosting me. I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be a part of your podcast and share nuggets of our book, I Am Here, especially my chapter, Guided by the Wisdom of Our Mothers, Ubuntu Legacy. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm excited too, because I think your chapter gives us a sense of remembering and honoring those that came before us. And I just really am excited to really share and kind of dive deep into that. And so can you just kind of tell us, like, what does guided by the wisdom of our mothers mean to you?
Dr. Meg, in our communities, our mothers are the ones who are the pillars in our society, but also they are the people that they are not always celebrated or acknowledged. And currently we are living in a world that it's just changing so fast. And it is that wisdom that our mothers have given us, that what is your GPS in terms of your decision making? So my experience with Guided by the Wisdom of Our Mothers, it's a reflection, it's a remembrance of our ancestors, those who came before our mothers, and us as the next generation now that are paving the path for our children and the future. So it's just a reflection of the wisdom framework that was passed on to us, and the ethics framework as well. How do we make decisions, and also how do we conduct ourselves in a way that it's relational, and also we are accountable for our actions. So my book, it is a tribute to my parents, to my grandmothers, to the village community, women who have guided me professionally as I was growing up, and also in my academic space, and in every space that I've made a mentor. So it's just that remembrance, the saying, we are not existing in isolation, and our actions as well impact others, our communities, and the systems that we are part of. So that is what really anchored my resolution to really take this path in terms of this chapter.
I love that. And, you really connected by, really educating us all really on the Ubuntu legacy. And so can you share, what does that represent in your life?
Yes. Ubuntu, it's a value system. It is an African philosophy that says, I am because we are one. It is an embodiment of humanity. When I see you, I see me. So it also represents like oneness between people and also the earth as well. So it reminds us that as much as we are living in an age where technology is advancing so much, but we must constantly anchor our decisions in a way that it honors the human dignity, the human connection, and our shared humanity. So this is what exactly humanity, Ubuntu, it's all about. It's saying we are not just making decisions for today, but we are shaping the future that others will inherit the consequences of our decisions for both the people and the planet. So this is what Ubuntu is really, really anchored, saying when you make decisions, not just about the individual, it's about the relational part of it, it's about the intergenerational part of it, it's about how do you connect with one another, must embody that empathy, that kindness towards one another, but also knowing that when you make decisions and when you interact with people, you must always be mindful that no one is invisible.
Mhm.
Individual matters. So this is what exactly Ubuntu embodies. And it's that reflection of that ancestral wisdom that we carry on, shaping how we lead, how we think, and how we make our decisions today, with that mindfulness that it's not only going to be a short-term decision, but it's going to impact the next generation as well. So this is what Ubuntu embodies, that value system in interconnectedness, in humanity, in collective well-being, and really mindfulness as well of the needs of others.
I love that. And in your story, you also kind of talk about the women who shaped you.
Yes.
Tell us about these women. Like, who were the mothers, the mentors, and the figures that really influenced your journey?
I would like to honor first my mother, who has since passed on, because when you grow up, we always look. Sometimes you can also look externally in terms of our role models, but the first role models are the people who are your immediate people. And when I ask young people sometimes who are your role models, many of them, they don't always acknowledge their mothers or their guardians, people who were there when you're even young, who shaped you to be a holistic being. So for me, my mother and also my grandmother, because I grew up in a community, a village community, they always said it takes a village to raise a child. So my upbringing was just not honoring my immediate maternal parents, but it was also the women who were there shaping me as a collective being, shaping my value system, who were embedding this Ubuntu values in terms of your love for humanity, dignity, respect, and relational, and also being accountable for your actions as well. So those were the women, but it was just not one woman. All the women who have shaped me, but my early stage, who are even say my role model, she has always been my mother, an embodiment of what it means to be human, an embodiment of what it means to be mindful, an embodiment of what it means to be a leader. And the one also shaped my leadership and decision making framework. That say, when you make the decisions, always pause, ask yourself, this decision that I'm making, is it upholding human dignity? Is it a decision that it is short term? What are the consequences of that decision? And it is a decision that will be able to build trust, or will be something that it pursues personal interest over a collective well-being. So those were kind of women who shaped me, and through that, they've passed on that kind of a stewardship of wisdom. So I am that kind of intergenerational stewardship of wisdom.
I love that. What lessons or wisdom would you say that stayed with you, that still guide you today?
Okay, so for me, I think honestly, I would like maybe to put it in a sense of three things. Number one, the lessons that I've learned was that in every relationship that we find ourselves, we create or we find ourselves in, every time when you in that relationship, you are accountable for that relationship in terms of whether it progresses in a way that is positive, it builds mutual respect and trust, it makes you grow to be the better version of yourself, it is inclusive, or it is also a relationship that will be bringing that human connectivity. So it's called relational accountability. So when you do that, it's about equity and inclusion in your relationship. Always be mindful that you balance that collective well-being, and you also are mindful that your actions, they have a broader impact, and always be intentional of your actions, that take actions that help you to build a greater good. The social impact part of it is something that is for the greater good. The principle there was that no decision exists in isolation, so it must always honor the collective part of it. But the other thing that's very important that I've learned was that I, as an individual, I'm also enough. I because people, they always operate from a place of saying being inadequate, and when you don't have that kind of sense of wholeness and confidence, I am more than enough as an individual. So other people, we are building a collective, complementing each other in terms of our strengths, our gifts, our talents. And when you raise a child like that, that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are more than enough, and you are raised in a way that's saying there is no limit to what you can do, what you can be, and where you can go. So that it builds a child to be a very self-confident child, a self-sustaining child, and a resilient child, because that identity is about your self-identity. In this context, it was Ubuntu was knowing who you are, and where you come from, and honoring those who have come before you, which for me, I'm celebrating the resilience of our mothers who had to endure so much, who had to innovate with limited resources, who had to raise children when even the fathers, sometimes they were absent fathers because they were not like a fully fledged family unit, but they had to raise these children, and really in a way that we are responsible citizens. So those are the things that I really, the ethical part of it and the value system. For me, those are the things that really influence my journey in life and how I interact with other people. But the most important thing was the human dignity, that the respect for one another. And my decision that I take should always be that kind of fairness, and make sure that I uphold that human dignity. I'm also compassionate as well, because we might not be the same in terms of, and that's the whole point. Not supposed to be the same, fitting in one box. We are different people, gifted differently. So I need to respect the other people's gifts and their way of thinking, their culture as well, and uphold that and be compassionate and respect those as well. So these were the values that I really, really carry in any space of my leadership journey. That human dignity is very, very important to really have. And that community, we are always belonging in a certain community. So when you belong in that community, bring other people along on your journey, because those are kind of your anchors. Those are the people who are there when no one else is there. Your family first, and also your community. Those are the people who build you and shape you and guide you on your journey, even when you are in those spaces where you are facing challenges. You know that you have your tribe, they have your back. So in my community, my upbringing was always like that. A village, you know that you had that village, whether your mother is there or not. Every elder was your elder. They had your best interest at heart. So that those were the kind of values that what were anchored in my early years.
I love that. And you gave us so much just in that spiel. And I'm hoping that whoever is watching or tuning in and will tune in will gain so much nuggets for that. And one of the things that really stood out to me that you just said was social impact. And continuing that journey and bringing it on to someone else. And I think that is really meaningful because, making a positive impact is something I personally am driven to do in so many different ways. And this book was one of those ways to do that. But you get connected and you have that community as your foundation. And I love how you beautifully just shared that. And it's very touching. And also a reminder for us to consider, coming back and also reflecting on those who shaped us, those who put us to where we are, and then pay it forward in helping support and carry that legacy forward. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. Now, we talked about a theme in this book that's fierce, fearless, and focused. So what does fierce look like for you through the lens of legacy?
I think, and one thing that I really appreciate with you bringing this phenomenal women to collaborate on this book, because everybody's an embodiment of that fierce and fearless, and focused as well. So as a woman in this context, we are struggling with a lot of cultural barriers that society has put limitations in terms of women on what you can do, where you can go, and the spaces in terms of also climbing up the ladder is always one of the most challenging things. So women have to face a lot of barriers in that space. So when you are rooted, in my case, being anchored in women, our mothers and our ancestors who have had to endure so much, we are in us there's that spirit of resilience. So resilience, it means that even when you walk into spaces where you feel that this space was not designed with a woman in mind, let alone an African woman, so you have to be very fearless in ensuring that you maintain that equity and inclusion in that space, in your decision and in your actions as well. And sometimes there's this general expression that says there's a table and the chairs. So you walk into that space, you feel like, okay, everybody's sitting in the chair, but I don't think there's a chair for me. So what do you do in that space? You just remain very fearless, in a sense that say, okay, I'm not going to be intimidated by moving to this space and feel like there's no chair for me. If there's no chair there, you just bring your own chair. You bring your own chair and you make space for yourself. And unapologetically so. You are very professional, you are intelligent, and you are an equal. We are equal, we're all born equal, So when you know who you are in terms of your identity, and when you know your value system, that you are more than enough, and be unapologetic about who you are. So for me, That's kind of saying being fearless. It means I'm ensuring that in any space that I occupy, I maintain equity. I go there as an equal, and I have a right of inclusion. So if there's any decisions that are taken, and also I have the right to contribute, to be heard, to be seen, and to be valued. So it's being that part, making that space, bringing your chair into the table if there's no chair there. And if the table is not big enough, bring your own table and a chair if needs be, but be in that room, ensuring that there's equity, you're included in those decisions and those actions as well. And also addressing professionally in terms of being fearless and focused, and also fierce. Being fierce, it means you are able to address those imbalances. Because if we, Dr. Meg, at our level, we have our daughters. If you are not also breaking down those barriers, we are also allowing them to be harmed. We are continuing this vicious cycle of inequality. So we have to address those imbalances boldly, unapologetically, and also but professionally as well. And ultimately, our sense of being focused is seeking that balance in relationships, to saying, I belong as an equal, I am part of this community, and I would like to also exist in a very professional, peaceful coexistence. So that is also another thing when you embody three. It's not one over another. According to me, the three, fierce, fearless, and focused, are just complementary and are equally important for women who are still trying to break the barriers that limits us, the silos that are still there, and also the other issues of bias, racial bias. So there's a lot of layers that women still have to go through as well.
Oh my goodness, you've said so much. And one of the things that really stood out was to bring your own seat at that table. I think that was something I had to give myself permission for. And I know a lot of women can identify and see that themselves. Sometimes we don't have the rooms built for us or thought in mind, but we know we belong there, and getting there, you don't wait for your seat. Sometimes you have to even build that table to even create the seat for yourself. And so I love how you shared that.
Yes.
you know, um, yes, that resonated so well with me, because I think it took a long time, even for myself, to even come to the realization that that was even even available to me to be able to do that. I don't think people know that they can build their, bring their own chair or build their own seat. And something else you said that really stood out is the professionalism piece, because I think sometimes when we show up, we let our emotions kind of get into it, and it can cloud the intention behind the show up. And so I love bringing the professionalism piece on as well too, because I think that means a lot to how you deliver that message. Because yes, I could be here, but we can do it in a way, especially Black women also often get labeled as aggressive or other things that they refer to us as when we have a voice. And not to say to shrink yourself. We definitely want to be unapologetic, but we also want to remain professional when we are bringing our seat, and being prepared, to go ahead and not only bring your seat at the table, have a voice at the table, run the table, and create your own, and bring others along the way. So I love that. Thank you so much.
I agree.
Now, the second and the second thing was fear. What fear did you have to overcome along your journey?
I think for me, the fear, it was, as you grow, it's decision making. It's very, very important, because every day you are making decisions, whether in your personal life, in your family life, being part of a community as well. And the greatest fear is always weighing the decision, saying, what is the best decision? Because whatever decision that you take is like, we're not just making decisions for today, but we are shaping a future that others will inherit, for both the people and the planet, even in your workplace as well. Whatever decision that you make, other people are going to be recipient of that decisions and the consequence of those decisions as well. So one of the greatest fears that I had to overcome, and that Ubuntu framework has always helped me in terms of my decision making framework, because it's almost about this decision that I'm making. We have to weigh, what is the pros and cons of this decision? Is this a decision that upholds the organization and what I want to achieve? What is the impact? So you always have to weigh, but also trust your instincts as well, because the decisions, you don't always make decisions with all the 100% of the information available. But I've learned over time, so even if 70% of the data is available and 30% is still uncertain, that's enough to make a decision, because sometimes I've always tried to be like a perfectionist. I always sometimes want things to be done up to a T for me to make that kind of a decision. But over time, I've learned with a part of the decision making to saying you need to have the data, yes, to verify that this is the right decision because the verified data, but you can never have 100% of all the data. And as a point, as a leader, there is a point where you have to just use your wisdom, which is not intelligence, but the wisdom now saying, I'm making this decision on the basis of my values. This is the right decision. And I think the consequence of it, yes, I can be able also to mitigate those kind of consequences. So I've learned that when you make decisions, it's one of the greatest things. And it's one of those things that we're not always taught about, the critical decision-making process, because it's a very, very critical thing in life to know how to make the right decisions. What framework are you using in terms of making your decisions as well? And how can you then eventually, because that impact, you know that this is a complex situation, and how can I gonna make this decision that will make sure that I can stand for this decision and it is the right decision, and go to the team, go to the board, go to the management, and be able to defend your decision confidently as well, even when there's comebacks, because it's okay also to take a decision. It's a risk, and even things that don't go well, you just own it and say, okay, what is the lesson that I have learned from this? What has gone right? What has not gone right? What is it that I can do differently next time? So I've learned also that when I was making those decisions with that bit of fear, say, oh, I'm not sure, but my gut says this is the right decision to do with all the available facts. And then if things don't go right, I say, okay, let me go back to the drawing board confidently, not being hard on myself, but confidently say, okay, let me assess this situation. What has gone right? What has not gone right? What is the lessons that I'm taking in this? And that improves the quality of the decision that I was making. And as a leader, it's one of the greatest things that we need to cultivate, that decision making, because you have to put in the human part of it, the vision part of it, that shared collective as well within it as well. It's one of the most challenging things, but I'm learning even now and continue to refine my decision making process. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that it's a continuous journey. You know, it's not that you get everything all at once. You learn, you grow, you develop, and you continue growing and developing. So it's on a spectrum of continuation, continuation,
Yes.
and we're always trying to be our best selves. And so I love that. Now,
Yes.
what would you for our last thing for focus? What keeps you focused today or grounded?
For me, what keeps me grounded, Dr. Meg, every day is our shared humanity and relationships. You know, there's one quote from Maya Angelou. It says, "People will forget, how you've treated them, you know, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Get my point? So there's something that when in any decision that you're making, it always has to be in a way that it strengthens relationships. It's not something, it strengthens the connection, the trust. And we are also putting both the short term and long term in mind as well. Because when we make decisions and when we interact with one another in terms of the relationships, because people say, you forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that how you made them feel, it can be a determining factor of whether this relationship will continue to grow and thrive, or can be a determining factor saying, I don't think we can get past this. Maybe this is the end of the relationship. And in life, Dr. Megwara blend, even through Ubuntu, the greatest currency of humanity is our relationships, our interconnectedness, because ultimately you build empires on the basis of relationships. Those relationships, people can invest in you, they build trust in you, they guide you, they mentor you because of those kind of relationships. So it's always very, very important that even when you have differences, ultimately, and sometimes even the same relationship, when that love comes to an end, but let it be in a place that we can still maintain a cordial relationship. So our
Yes.
my one thing that I value the most is the relationships that we build over time, because you never know. They say, or this other quote as well in idiom says, never burn any bridges, because you don't know the day you will need to cross that bridge. So that bridge is relationship,
Yes.
because
Yes.
how I'm treating you now, I don't know what the future holds. One day I will knock and you find that, oh, no one else can be in a position to help except this person. So how you treat people on your life, it's must very, very be intentional in terms of our relationships and building that, and just being. That's why Ubuntu says, I am because we are one. It's that kind of strengthening our shared humanity, building that trust, building that mutual respect, and also relationships, and that kind of long-term social cohesion. And also some of the decisions are generational, it's intergenerational. Some of the decisions that we are taking today, especially in this advent of technology as well, our children are going to inherit that. The future are going to be inherited. So it's that reminder saying, Ubuntu reminds us that we are borrowing the future. We are not owning it, we are borrowing it. And our children, they have to live with the decisions that we are making today. So it's very, very important that the decisions that we are making today, we are mindful of the impact of it on the people, on the relationships, and also on the planet as well.
Oh my god, that was so amazing. Now, for that woman who's out there searching for her
Mhm.
voice and for her roots, what would you say to her right now?
I would like to say to them that let's be intentional about knowing who we are. Self identity is very, very important. It's just tracing your roots, because in that genealogy, in that self identity, that's where your strength rests, and also that's where your gifts, you not the gifts that we get to I could say we have gifts, then professional when we go to the universities is to refine what we are being given, born with it. Everybody's born with a purpose, in fact. So I'm saying to the women, saying, find a community of like-minded people, because also in those relationships as well, there are relationships that can build you, there are relationships that can drain you, and there are relationships that can really take you on a path that you look back, you becoming a shadow version of yourself. So any woman out there say, you know who you are. You don't need permission to belong to any place. And it's also okay to walk away from relationships that are very toxic, that are not adding value. So, Dr. When you know your worth as a woman, that I am worthy as a woman, I don't need validation, external validation. The greatest validation that you need is your internal confidence, the self confidence, the self identity, and bringing that kind of internal resilience and learning from your family, your lineage, your ancestors who have gone before you. Let's know them. Let's connect with them. They have carried the torch, and now they have given us that torch. We have the duty to shine our light as well everywhere we go. So I would say to them, you are more than enough. You don't need a permission to follow your dreams and your passion. And also success can be a very, very isolating journey. Leadership is a very, very isolating journey. But in that isolating journey, there are other leaders that you can find. So that becomes your tribe. You lean on them. And lastly, I say, always find your anchors. I've grown a lot in my life, and I continue to grow in my life because I have found in my journey personal mentors, people who mentor me in my personal life, in my spiritual journey, in my professional journey, in my academic pursuits as well. You need those anchors. And those are the people that, even when nothing else makes sense in your world, even when you are in your leadership position, you just need a sounding board. You need to have that kind. It's a very, very small kind of community that they can be able to, you can go to, but have that kind of a community, because no man is an island. So we all belong into that kind of a community. So find your community. And if this community is very toxic, it is okay to outgrow a 15-year relationship, a 20-year relationship, because you know your worth. So women
Right.
sometimes we are just so cultured to endure so much, and sometimes you don't put yourself first. You need to put yourself first. Self-love is the best gift you can give yourself, because no one else can love you more than you love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you are able to take all this junk. People will be throwing everything on you because you don't know, you have not come to a place of saying, this is who I am. I know my worth. I love myself enough not to put up with this toxic situation. And in the professional space, you become professional, you handle that situation, you become fearless, you become focused, become unapologetically fierce. You say, this is okay, this is not okay. Set boundaries, protect yourself. Because if Dr. Max, you don't take care of yourself as an individual being, no one else. And you teach people how to treat you. So if you keep on accepting this toxic kind of treatment, even professional bullying that is there also is a reality in the workplace, you keep on just extending yourself and not setting boundaries, ultimately you'll be depleted and there'll be nothing left of you. And life goes on. You'll be out of the job. People will just hire another one. You'll be given somebody who's not performing because you have not set your boundaries. So
Yeah.
know yourself and really set the boundaries and be excellent as well. Let people really, whatever they do, let them not find you wanting on excellence. Just know yourself and bring your A game and draw the line professionally. When that those boundaries, people are disrespecting you, you just in a professional manner, you deal with it. And if that's not working in a professional manner, you also take other drastic measures. There's always things that you can do. Buy the book.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so before we go, I want you to do just complete a sentence for me. I'm going to start the sentence and you're just going to end it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. I am her because.
Because I am grounded in our shared humanity and you have a responsibility to love one another and above all, to love yourself.
Mm. Well, Sindile, it has been absolutely amazing and a pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much for sharing your voice, your story, of course, and your impact with us today. It was an amazing conversation. I know that we're going to bless someone with the words of wisdom you just shared, even in our conversation today. So I want to thank you again for joining me. So thank you so much.
I want to thank you, Dr. Meg, and our viewers and listeners who have joined us. And you're an amazing woman. So if women can do all this kind of supporting each other and amplifying our voice, the world would be a better place. Not only for us, for our children's future generations.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, absolutely. And so, for those of you who are watching, if this conversation really spoke to you, I encourage you to stay connected, share the episode, and continue supporting voices that are creating real change in our world. And so, be sure to grab a copy of I Am Her, Fierce, Fearless, and Focused to experience even more stories powerful like this one. And if you've been carrying a story, a message, and or a voice inside of you, and the world needs to hear it, this is your reminder that you do not have to wait for permission. At Mac Media Publishing, we are helping bring those stories to life and turn them into impact. And so, again, this is the Voices of Impact and Change. I'm Dr. Mac, Chief Visionary Officer of Mac Media and Publishing, reminding you to walk boldly in who you are called to be. Until next time.
Yes.